Hello, I hope you are well. 43 of us, Oblates on Provincial Council and lay leaders from the 4 provinces of Canada and the United States, along with the General Administration, met virtually for 5 days, from Monday, June 21st through Friday, June 25th. Michelle Miller and Oblate Remy Lepage, our facilitators, were invaluable in organizing us and keeping us on task. All sessions were in both French and English, thanks to the excellent translation skills of Dan LeBlanc. Remy and Michelle had met with CROCUS several times previous to the meeting to work out details and goals for the virtual meeting. The main speaker sessions were recorded, and you will receive further information about how to access those talks. The goals of our meeting were 3. They were these: to reflect and renew our future mission in the Canada-US region, to move towards greater collaboration within the Canada-US region, and finally to promote a spirit of belonging within the Canada-US region. Previous to the beginning of the meeting, all Oblates were invited to express their hopes, their dreams, their fears about restructuring. We were reminded that a lot of restructuring has been happening for several years in the region. Such restructuring has been occurring in terms of exchange of personnel, especially to enhance various ministry needs in the 4 provinces. First Formation has been regionalized for the past couple of years. Vocation efforts are gradually becoming more and more a regional reality. Because much of our meeting was devoted to administrative restructuring, the previous sharing of our hopes, our dreams, and our fears about this topic was helpful to assess where Canada-US leadership is with this topic. Our goal of renewing our future mission in the region underlines the importance, even the necessity, of our further collaborating together to share personnel, resources, ministry sites, to enhance our presence and ministry to better serve God's people and the poor. As Father General told us, this is a week of intense listening to the Spirit. Listen to the Spirit we did as Ken Thorson, Provincial of Lacombe Province in Canada, spoke to us about all the media attention regarding the residential school of Indigenous peoples, formerly administered by the Oblates. 215 bodies were discovered buried near the Kamloops School, where it was formerly believed there were 51 bodies. We administered this school from 1890 until 1969. Many of the public have expressed anger about this situation, and our records are being prepared to be publicly shared. Many of those records have already been shared. As our week together continued, more graves at another school administered by the Oblates were discovered. Media attention will continue. It is a difficult time for the Indigenous peoples, for the Oblates, and for all the people of Canada. Ken explained to us that these residential schools should never have happened, period. He finished his remarks by quoting the 1991 apology of the Oblates to the Indigenous peoples. The apology included the remark that these schools assumed that customs, traditions, language of those who administered these schools was superior to that of the native peoples. That was wrong. We apologize for the very fact that these schools even existed, he said. Previous to our joint session, Jim Brobst organized virtual visits with members of the General Administration with our ministries in the U.S. Several of the General Administration members commented on how they were impressed with how Oblates reached out in very creative and innovative ways during the pandemic. It was good to hear. Warren Brown mentioned to us that it is the preference of the General Administration for the Oblates in our region to initiate this process of restructuring, but also reminded us that they, the General Administration, will be ready and willing to assist us in this process. Various models of restructuring are possible: province to delegation, mission to province, 2 or 3 provinces, etc. David Callert and Eugene King joined us to listen to each of the province ministry reports in order to familiarize themselves with the primary important ministries of each province. The province reports were very helpful in terms of understanding the lived reality of each province, how each province practically lives out our charism in both community and ministry. David and Jean also shared their experiences with restructuring provinces and delegations in the congregation in the past. Both of them were helpful, especially in terms of cautioning us about some important do's and don'ts in this process of administrative restructuring. Jean King was helpful in suggesting that we as a region must closely look at a theology of dying. We cannot fully embrace resurrection or new life until we intimately accept that dying must precede new life. Dying to what has been is part and parcel if new life is to happen. David Callett reminded us about our values, our priorities as Oblates, and how we minister, our closeness to those we serve, our care for the environment, our history of openness to face uncertain futures. He said that our constitutions also remind us that, with the guidance of the Spirit, Oblates are to be open to the future, its possibilities, and always remain hopeful. David addressed the topic of differing ecclesiologies in the region. This continues to be a very challenging issue for us. He told us to identify clearly these differences, face them honestly, and not let them prevent us from moving forward in our restructuring and in our continuing to minister together as a region. David also offered some helpful practical considerations in the process of restructuring. We restructure primarily for the sake of a better missionary presence among God's poor. Legal issues, finances, personnel, decisions about ministries, and a host of other issues, of course, must also be addressed. There can never be too much communication among our members about these matters, David reminded us. We also looked at Oblate personnel statistics and projections for the coming 10, 20, and 30 years. To continue to support 4 province units, even for 5 or more years, seems untenable and frankly a bad use of our personnel. Yet as a group, even on Thursday, we are still very hesitant about deciding how to move forward. On Friday, our final day together, Warren Brown shared with us how 4 provinces restructured in 2016: Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, to become the Cruz del Sur province. They have 1 provincial with 4 sectors. The provincial is in Argentina. Each sector also has a vicar provincial. There have been some exchange of personnel, and the first formation houses are in different sectors. So far, this seems to be working well. In groups, we were then invited to creatively attempt to come up with a possible plan for restructuring. Father General reminded us, after some questioning by members, whether the central government had already come up with a plan for us. He assured us that the central government saw the need for a plan, but said emphatically that they don't work that way. He reminded us that the 2016 chapter delegates mandated that restructuring happen in the congregation and also in the Canada-US region. Warren Brown identified many ways in which we have been collaborating together over many years, even in some new ways since the 2016 chapter. On behalf of the central government, Warren then told us, and I quote, "In light of the real numbers of rapidly declining membership and knowing the advantage of organizing sooner rather than later and heeding the concern of the 2016 General Chapter, we call you now to decide to begin to restructure the units of your region to meet the present and future needs of our oblate mission to the poor. 20 years ago, the provinces of Canada worked together to restructure the region, and all the provinces worked together at that time for the betterment of our oblate mission, and though it was not easy, you have accomplished much in these 2 decades. 5 years earlier than this, the U.S. provinces came together to form a common U.S. province in 1999. You stand on these accomplishments. Let us continue on this journey. As you make this positive and life-filled decision to restructure, we support your decision to establish a commission to begin the particular preparations for this restructuring. It will be necessary for that commission, as it begins its work, to agree on a roadmap or timetable on the way forward, with timelines, taking into consideration the proximity of the next chapter and leadership transitions. In particular, we remind you of the urgency of a decision regarding Notre-Dame-du-Cap province's leadership. First and foremost, we ask you as major superiors to develop a common mission statement for the Oblate mission in the region and to decide what you can agree to do in common. As has been suggested in this session, expert consultants could be used, especially in cultural anthropology and business management, as you review your present and future Oblate mission. Secondly, we ask that this commission make plans on how a restructuring in the region can have common legal and financial structures, sharing among yourselves your respective legal and financial liabilities, as well as your resources. The Treasurer's Committee could provide resources and support for this research and development. Thirdly, we ask that this commission propose possible models for the restructuring of the units in the region, first for the Union of the Provinces of Canada, and then how this can also include the province of the United States. End of quote. Thank you for listening. I wish each of you a safe and a relaxing summer. God bless you.